Test. Okay, that's working. Armchair history interactive. There we go. I will turn off ads. Okay. First of all, I want to go check out some updates. Hello, guys. Hello. Hello, Panzer. Hello, Mr. Hadado. Let me set up a release date. I think we're looking at, like, I don't know, end of the summer or something. I really don't want to say anything because we're such a small team. I feel like if we were bigger, if you had like 10 people and I know what everybody's getting done, it's easier to predict. But when you've got 3 people and you've got a big mountain of tasks, it's hard to know who's going to get there first and what, like the more people you have, if I had a company of 50 people, it all averages out. One person makes less of a difference in a company of 50 compared to a company of 3. So predicting a release date can be quite tough. Even for big companies, of course, it's tough, but I will guarantee you it'll be out this year. That's guaranteed. But I can't narrow down a month or anything. That's too tough. Anyways, what the help I need today is regarding some UI about picking your faction. And I have like a little mock-up. I have this one, which is just like a spin-off of Bannerlord. Anyways, it's not going to look good. It's just a concept so that an artist can actually go over it. So it basically is UX, not UI necessarily. Let's go to pictures. Let's go to master command, and let's go to campaign and work in progress. Okay, so this is another idea that I had that I want to go over in a second. Before we do that, though, this is a test map, so please ignore the graphics. Look, I'm just pre-building villages and pre-building little towns, so just ignore the map. It's not fully done, but I am just testing a few things. So I was told, first of all, there is a cannonball mesh update. So if I bring my troops up and have the cannonballs fire. Also, I think there's going to be a camera shake when the artillery fires now. Yeah, oh, that's cool, isn't it? The camera shook. And then there's a little trail, which probably just needs a little polishing, but I will note that the texture actually isn't... Yeah, the cannonball doesn't have texture right now. It does look much better when they fire, though. Wasn't that cool that the camera shook when they came out? I did love that. That's brand new. That just got added today. So we'll fire at these guys. Also, we made the bodies less dark. People were complaining we made the dead bodies a little too dark. I don't know where the range is stuck on, the range cone. The cannonballs look like they're firing in slow motion, so I think they need to fire a little faster. Let's look at the camera shake. That's cool, isn't it? And these guys run the position. And then what was the other thing he said he changed? He changed 2 new particles for move and melee, updated the regimental color death. Yeah, that's about it. That's pretty much everything. But yeah, here's the new dead body. They used to be really dark. Now they're less dark when people die, which I think this looks more natural. So, and I don't think he added this. We're going to have it so when troops run, they leave dust behind them, but I don't think he added that. So if they run, do they leave dust? No. So that'll be added next week, that they'll kick up a little dust when they move. You can also see I redid the British uniforms. Look how much more red they are and bright. The blue was so dark you couldn't even see it. It was like black, and the red was almost pink. So I've really overhauled those uniforms there. The other thing we changed too is we slightly tilted the tricorns over to the left. Do you see that? Because they would wear them on a slant. The issue is like the artillerists are way too slanted, so I don't know why that's happening. But yeah, that is cool. A lot of the stuff is brand new, added today. You can also see the cannonballs bounce and leave skids in the ground now, which is cool. So they can actually bounce and hit somebody behind and actually deal damage. It's not just a decoration, it actually would damage another unit. Then we can go to melee. Of course, there's cannonballs coming into the melee there. All right, they retreated. All right, so that's all working. That's pretty cool. Another update I have to show you guys is the farms were finally redone for campaign. Vive la Roi, yep. Do you not limber and unlimber to move them to play? You can limber and unlimber, yeah. Cannonball, the cannons have no smoke. Yeah, the cannon smoke is still being added. They need the muzzle flashes and smoke. Those aren't in yet. The artillery horses are floating. Yeah, they're too low velocity for sure. Melee's pretty much done as it is, Fireball. It's like, I'm sure you've noticed, if you've played Napoleon Total War, I'm sure you've noticed some glitchy melees where like guys run past each other when they're supposed to charge. That is made by a AAA studio, and they still struggled. So it is incredibly difficult to make the melee look, especially because it's such a minor part of the time period relative to gunfire. It's not like pike and shot, where melee is a lot more common. Anyways, let's jump in, and I'll show you the new farms. But yeah, the artillery is definitely way too low velocity. We can get nice muzzle flash, more smoke, speed up the cannons, and I think they're going to be in a better direction than they are right now. But a lot of that was brand new. Like, all of those things you saw today were just added today, just within a single day. So, yeah, we've got plenty of time to go ahead and polish those off. Steven says, I upset. Today I went and talked to a Marine recruiter, but I got a DQ for having autism. I think I'm going for a waiver. Well, Steven, it is what it is, man. I didn't know they disallow, if you have any form of autism, you're not allowed. Or is it like extreme cases of autism you're not allowed? I didn't know they disqualify. I got friends in the military who definitely have some autism. Anyways, the farms here, you can see how much nicer they look. Do you guys remember how they used to look? But check out how they look now. They're much more natural, and they connect to the roads. So there's no more farms that are out in the middle of the nowhere. They're always connected to roads now. Look how much nicer that looks. So I'll post some of this under game updates for people as well. Yeah, the Little Wars TV thing. Yeah, that was cool that they invited me. I doubt that the Ottomans are going to win. I actually don't even know the result. But I doubt the Ottomans are going to win. There, okay. So the feedback I need you guys for is something else. That's what it looks like. People would not know if they meant me. What the hell are you talking about? But I know the Army and Navy will let people in with autism, but I want to be a Marine. BSTN. Yeah, I've heard a lot of stories. I had another friend who had kidney stones and suddenly was not allowed to be in the Navy or in the Air Force. So there's like a bunch of little restrictions like that. It was cool that they invited an actual general. Yeah, not cool for me, Gaslight. Not as cool for me. Playing against the general. Anyways, I want to show you guys some UI here. So my issue currently is that I would prefer smooth movement instead of the jerky movement. Austin, what are you talking about? I was teleporting on the map. I don't know if you realize that. I was using cheats to teleport. Is that what you're talking about with jerky movement? Yeah, so the issue I'm having right now is this is the main menu. And this is faction selection. And then you pick your army. Like this. So I have a couple issues here. I have a couple little issues here. You said most would not be able to tell I have autism if they were to meet me. Yeah, I feel like there's a whole spectrum of autism. And did you have to give them like paperwork, and then they saw that you had taken a test for it and were autistic, and then they did not want to accept you, or did they just look at you and say something like, I don't know. I assume you had to give them paperwork, that they didn't just stare at you and go, nope, you're not allowed, because that would be pretty inappropriate. Is army movement going to be restricted to roads? So that's a good question, Fireball. It's not restricted to roads, but you get a benefit from moving on roads, and you automatically pathfind toward roads. You can go off a road to hide from the enemy AI. Yes, that is correct. You can do that. But yeah, here's my issue. First of all, in terms of art style, this is the main menu. This is the faction selection. And then this is the composition selection. So these are kind of like 3 different art styles, but I would say that these 2 match more than this other one. This guy doesn't match as much compared to these 2, for better or for worse. So that's one issue. Second issue I have is this menu looks fine. We just have to add the buttons. We have to like fill in these buttons with 3 like social media things, and then fill out the rest of this and clean this up. That's fine. We'll probably animate the background. That's also fine. My issue is you select new campaign, and this feels placeholder. And I don't know why, but this text feels like it's floating. It's almost like a modern style, where it's like there's no background. It's just floating text, which is modern. And then the next one is not modern, right? Nothing's floating. Everything has containers within containers within containers within this container. So it's much more, look at all the design and like flourish on the UI there. And then here there's none. So I feel like this is inconsistent, and I kind of have a small problem with that. This is the main thing I need feedback on, by the way, guys. So this is the main point of the stream today, is like figuring out this UI. The other stuff I was showing you was just for fun, but this is my issue, is that this is like the flow of how you get into a campaign. And I feel like there's something about this that just feels unfinished. This main menu, maybe I'll redo the artwork, or maybe I'll clean this up and we'll animate it, or we'll make some minor changes. I bet this could be fixed, and that's fine. These 2, I'm just unsure about what to do here. I'm just not sure. Blaze, you're saying, hey, add a background behind the text. We could do that. We could add a little panel behind it. What do you guys say? I would copy the stratagem style. The box is the paper color. Yeah, not a big issue. It's not a real problem where we should put the effort and remaking art style. Never even thought about it. Yeah, okay, well, that's good to know you guys didn't even have a problem with it. But I do think that this probably should get a background. My one issue is that some of the characters, their arm sticks out like this. So I probably will just change the arm position to be lower and move him over to the left. You like the army selection, but you agree on factions. Okay, so here is you guys shoot this down immediately. You tell me if I'm an idiot for this, okay? So tell me your honest opinion here. I was thinking, I'm making a mock-up of changing it so that when you hit new campaign, we combine both screens. This is taken from Warhammer, so the UI looks like shit. This is just a mock-up I made, okay? So it's not real UI. But you have the factions up top, so you can toggle between them without having to go through multiple menus. And then when you click on a faction, you have the 3 armies that you can lead there. And then we could list like the information about the stratagems or something, and then show the picture of the army. So it could all be contained together. And then the background could be like the map of Europe or something. But it's all one container. And then the soldier, there would be no room for him at all. He would, I guess, be gone. Or maybe I use him only in like the victory screen. So if you win the campaign, then you get the cheerful soldier. But like this could be an option so that you can easily swap between nations all in one and read all the information about the armies, what bonuses they get, what their composition is. Everything's fully contained. And maybe this is a little bit cleaner. And it would kind of make it like... Here, I'll show you guys 1 sec. Steven says, was this not the idea before? Yeah, it was for a little bit, and I went back and forth on it, man. I really just could not decide. But here, I'll show you guys the new flow of how it would work. Don't these feel more cohesive together? Like the orange and fire and like the dark tone of the UI, and then you flow, once you hit new campaign, it goes there, right? Whereas this one, if you hit new campaign, you get this giant oversized soldier with some floating text. And then you get like a table with like 3 floating panels. You guys know what I mean? Like something's been just bothering me with this, where I feel like this seems cleaner, doesn't it? What do you guys think? You tell me if I'm being stupid with this change. Blaze, it's a little cramped. I agree, it might be a little cramped. I agree. We could probably, it's divided into sections like this. We could probably reorganize the sections. We might be able to like move this out here, then move these over here, and or maybe make a divider. You know, we could add some space or something like that. But yeah, let me read what you guys are thinking. Why not keep the things you did for the victory screen? I don't have a victory screen right now, actually. Like a win campaign screen. One doesn't exist currently. It just is a gray box that says you win for the right now. Steven says, it does feel better that way. It'd be a shame to scrap the nation selection. Yeah, it is kind of crappy, but yeah. Enlistment papers for nation selection. That might be a bit too niche, I feel. I'd have to create like brand new UI for that. Whereas this actually just reuses a bunch of UI. It's a cool idea. It's a cool concept. I'm not sure. Not so sure. Finian, you like the new idea? Not stupid, but both ways work. I think it flows better, but the original looks nice, and it shows how bad war is, what people think. A winner is you. I don't know what that means. Both works, but it'd be really sad losing the animated soldier. No victory cinematic. That's Machiavelli. We will make something. We will make something. I just don't have anything yet. It's good, but don't you think you're overthinking it? Don't stress yourself. Yeah, I don't know. The faction selection original is too cartoony. That's what I'm thinking, Nicholas, because we don't show any big, out of proportion soldiers like this anywhere else in the game. They're usually depicted like this. Or another example of depiction is like these are the main depictions that we're showing in the game. Like that art style and this art style. This is a kind of a different art style a little bit. But yeah. So what do you guys, I'll put a little poll and you guys can kind of tell me what which faction selection. New one, old one. So the old one is going to be on the right. New one's on the left. Machiavelli, they're 3 different artists. 3 different artists. I'll show you which artist is which in a second, but I'm going to let people just vote and see all the options. So the left one is new, where you just hit new campaign, you get the factions, and you pick an army. The right one is old, where you go through that screen first, and then you narrow it down between the 3 big armies. Fireball, I do agree that if we lost the big soldier here, we would probably repurpose him and show him animated when you win a whole campaign. You could have like the big soldier in the screen, a bunch of like victory UI, and like a level up bar or something like that. Okay, it seems like you guys much prefer the left one. Austin, I've already got victory music. Do you want to hear it? I've already got it. It is in my music. Music pack. Campaign. National marches. Stings. Here it is. So if you win as Britain, it does this. And if you win as like France, so I have stings. Or you could even just play the full march. If a player's going to be, if they won the whole campaign, you could probably use those short stings for winning a battle as those countries. And then if you win the campaign, you get a full big 2-minute song because you're probably going to be reading your stats, checking out how well you did, and so I think that is probably the way to go. Anyways, yeah, you guys seem to be much preferring the new UI. Would you guys mind if... Yeah, Machiavelli, I think you guys are all right. Yeah, the longer one. Austin, I think you're right as well. Use the longer one for campaign. I agree. I agree. Gosh, while I have you guys here, I kind of want to ask you a few more questions. Because there's been a lot of little debates happening that we've had. What is the other thing I wanted to ask about? Let me think. Gosh, what was the other... I guess there's not really another big thing besides the campaign mode. Yeah, I'll talk to you guys about the campaign mode. So let me show you guys how the campaign currently works. What we're going to do... Here's my schedule. Just to be honest with you guys. I'll show you what I'm planning on. This is not a confirmation of anything, by the way. This is just what I'm planning on doing. It doesn't mean anything. May is like really focus on battles. So polish them up, get the AI better. Like we finally got the AI engaging in pretty big like battles this month. We have like the artillery shake. We have the trails behind the artillery. We have the new muzzle flashes. We're adding new sound effects to battle. Like the whole focus is on battle. We made so much progress in literally what, a week. We made a ton of progress. June, I want to focus on campaign. Anything else that needs wrapping up with the campaign. And then July is polish the game. Or honestly, you could probably say bug fix. And maybe like balance, like change stuff based on feedback. Because I'd imagine playtesters are going to be around here. And then this is like polish and maybe have the release ready? Question mark. This is kind of the schedule, this like 4-month schedule I'm looking at. Because the battles are feeling pretty good right now. I don't look at the battles and get embarrassed or nervous. I look at UI like this and I'm like, yeah, this feels wrong. I need to change this. Like this I feel nervous about. Like I want to get this changed. And this could probably be changed during the campaign month. Or even probably maybe even the polish or bug fix month. Like why would we need to have the team spend time on this right now when they could be spending time on the campaign? So we've got plenty of time though. They could do it in July or August and that's totally fine. But come June, I want to finish the campaign. And the campaign on paper is done. You can go in, so check this out. We have 3 regions that got generated for us as Prussia. There's a proximity bias from our nation. So it wanted to pick nearby regions like Poland or Hanover to fight in. And it also has a wild card. So it actually threw in Normandy. So you could go march your army over to Normandy if you want to. And I think that's fun. It just spreads the regions out so you're not fighting in the same area every time. But let's say I want to go pick Poland. Poland has its own unique rewards. I get the Itzenplitz Musketeers if I go there, and I also get the Blitz Stratagem if I win it. And so you can click through the regions. They have descriptions that are dynamically generated. All of this on paper is done. The camp is finished. I can drag units around. I can give them items. I can check out their weapons. I can go down their upgrade trees. I can... even if I can't upgrade them, there's actually a dedicated animation that shows that you can't upgrade them. We have the flag customizer, the unit facings, all of the emblems are done, the patterns are finished, the colors are balanced, that you can rename units, you can buy new divisions, you can customize the officers. All of that's done too. The stratagems are in, they've been tested, they work mostly. There's some that might need to be balanced based on playtesters. But we can click into a region. We go into a region. It will procedurally generate something. It uses all the artwork. The new farm artwork is implemented. Towns are done. Towns have their own conditions. So like Glander's outbreak, reducing cavalry. Also plundered towns. There's less item variety. The enemy has a headquarters, which spawned over here, which has 9,000 men I have to defeat. When you defeat them, it goes to the next region. That's all done. I could go on and on and on, right? Like all of that is finished. But something is kind of missing for me that... When you start a campaign, you walk around and you're like, all right, I see a little encounter. We'll go over here. We'll check this out. What's this? Abundant supplies. We're going to take the supplies. If we do that, we risk battling an enemy army. So I'm just going to scavenge and get out of there. I don't want to risk a battle. I don't want to stay too long. And then look, an enemy army spotted me. So they're going to pursue me. I run away. You might fight that battle and you continue on. And that's kind of the campaign right now, which is a little bit, it's just lacking just a little bit. Like the battle system, we had it for a while where you didn't have cover, there was no elevation system, and the morale system was really basic. So I was playing battles constantly without morale, cover, or elevation, or flanking damage. And I was like, the battles are fine, but there's just something a little bit missing. Now, here's the thing about that. When I was thinking, there's something missing, that was 3 months ago, when we had way more time to develop the game. So if I tell myself, there's something missing for campaign, I really don't have a lot of time. So immediately my mind could spring to, what if there's allied armies moving around, and you could coordinate with your allies, and someone calls for reinforcements, or there's enemy patrols, and I'm sure we could go on and on about, or you're on the Europe map and you could build your own city and you could do this, you could manage diplomacy. Again, you could go on and on about all the things you could do, but we can't quite do that. So it's a matter of, well, I think there's something a little bit missing, but I don't have all the time in the world to do it. So I made like a little sketch where this is going to look horrible. So I don't even know. But this is my sketch where you spawn in, and maybe I should make the player feel, I'll just give you guys this little presentation. Maybe we want to make the player feel like there's an element of survival to a campaign, that it's not just move, right click and just go, that your resources are scarce and there are enemies who are patrolling around, and any like little wrong move might screw you. So it's not like right now, you just keep going and enemy armies will just spawn. So if I just keep moving, eventually an enemy army will spawn and just run at me. There you go. So an enemy just spawned and runs at me. And that's it. Enemies just spawn, run at you. You get loot from the battles. You can sell the loot or equip it, go to towns, restock, and that's it. That's the full loop. You just do that over and over again. Then you have little encounters, and eventually you make your way to the end, and you have an enemy headquarters. You battle them and you win. So that technically works. It is simple. It is like a fairly decent system. It has a very tight gameplay loop, but I don't know, maybe I'm just second guessing myself because we're getting to the end of development and I'm just feeling nervous about things. But yeah, I think Machiavelli, the spawning is a little too simple. That's kind of what I'm thinking. So here's my proposal that I'm going to share with you guys, and then you tell me what you think. I don't know how much this is going to be possible. I haven't even pitched this to the developers because I'm a little afraid to, because I want them to finish up the battle systems. They're a little stressed. And then when we finish the battle systems, I'll present this at the start of campaign month, which is next month. So I had 4 types of armies I want to do, and I'm going to give them crappy nicknames, okay? This is not how I'd call them in-game. This is just for the sake of game design. The first army is called a boss, and they're all the way at the end of a region. We have that already, so that part stays the same. The second army is called an elite, and you may notice that in like Slay the Spire, they have elites. And I'm thinking elites can be on the map, in the mountains, or in the forest, and they're pre-marked on your map. These yellow areas are already marked on the map that there are elite armies encamped, and they don't even come at you if you walk near them. By the way, I was envisioning this at first, like if this is an RPG game. So look at my character, I gave him a little sword and shield, because I'm just putting myself in the mindset of like, if Slay the Spire were to make a real-time campaign, how would they do it? Or if there was an RPG game like Battle Brothers, how would they do it? And then how do I carry those things over to how that meets the demands for Master of Command? So that's why there's like little monsters with like horns and there's swords. I was just trying to put myself in that mindset. Anyways, these yellow areas are marked, and these are the elites. These are tough armies, and they don't get aggroed. If you walk near them, they don't follow you. They just stay encamped. So you choose if you want to engage them. They're tough armies, and it's high risk, high reward. You could lose the campaign if you screw up, or come close to losing, or you could win and get a lot of rewards. You probably want to tackle 1 or 2 of these elites before you take on the boss, because it will give you experience and good rewards. And more experienced players might try to take out all 3 elites, whereas less experienced players might go for 1 and then go for the boss. Okay, so it's kind of up to you to choose how competent you are and how much risk you want to take on the elites. I'm also thinking we reward the player with a random stratagem if they beat an elite, which is very similar to Slay the Spire, where if you beat an elite, you get a relic reward. Okay, and so and by the way, I'm gonna read your guys' comments after I'm done the presentation. So the next thing, and I already caught a glimpse of what Matanza was saying, whereas the campaign should feel a little more alive. I agree, but we have some cost parameters. Battle Brothers is a great example of a good open world that feels very alive, but we can't quite make a game at that scale. So here is my next idea. We have the boss that I showed you guys, the elites that stay put, and then we have patrols and stalkers. So this is kind of the new type of thing. Let me pause them real quick, just to add one final comment. The boss will eventually come after you, but over the course of the several weeks that you're campaigning, it slowly grows. See how the green bar is filling up? So there's 2,000 men, they're rallying men, and once they hit 9,000, you get a message that the enemy headquarters is coming to you. So either you hunt them or they will come to you. You can't stay in the region forever. And in fact, all of the supplies in these towns don't regenerate. So once you take all the food and manpower from these towns, that's it. So there isn't a passive time pressure. I don't like artificial games that say you have 10 weeks or you lose, but we have an implicit time pressure that says, hey, eventually you'll run out of food and eventually this army will come after you. So it's a nice way to feel like it's not an artificial pressure, but eventually you do need to wrap up the campaign. Okay, I just want to make that clear. So the two new army types are patrols and stalkers. And patrols, they just find two cities and they just go back and forth between them. And this way, right now, the main way you travel in this game is on the roads, right? You want to go on the roads, find towns, find cities, find things to purchase and that sort of thing. So these patrol armies will hog these roads up and go back and forth. And if you go near them, they'll chase you. So they can be aggroed, unlike the elites that will just stay encamped. They're basically like military encampments that are going to stay put. And the patrols are like medium difficulty armies. They're not too tough, but you do need to take them out if you want to clear these areas in order to have access to these towns consistently. Or what's kind of cool is you might take out this elite, watch a patrol walking by, and then wait till he runs away, or wait till he like continues because he didn't spot you, and then you run past him. That system of AI is already in the game. There are already armies, and I'll show you one, like this one here. See how it's encamped? It's not going to do anything, but if I come nearby, watch this. Oh, it spotted me, right? So that AI behavior is already in the game, but this new behavior would just tell it to patrol back and forth on the roads before it could possibly get aggroed. And then the final army type would be a stalker. And these guys are the ones who spawn in randomly behind you. And I'm thinking they should be the rarest enemy that you encounter, because I would find it annoying if enemies are constantly spawning behind me and there's not even a reason for it. So these guys just keep a little bit of pressure on you. If you're just sitting around a while, let's say you've killed the patrols and killed the elites, these guys will keep you on your toes and make sure that you're constantly moving. And I feel like the player should be able to outrun the stalkers fairly easily. So they've got a slower movement speed, but they're just there to give you that implicit pressure to make sure you don't, or like, for example, maybe I'm running away from a patrol army and then a stalker spawns and now I have to change my route and book left. So it just keeps you on your toes a little bit. And I'm thinking that might be enough between the elites that are scattered around the maps, stalkers that sometimes go after you, and patrols that clog the roadways, and your boss, that it makes the region feel just a little bit more alive. And then the last thing I was thinking about adding were more encounter types, whereas instead of just doing encounters that are the same battlefields and the same caravans every time, there are question mark encounters. And so you have no idea what's in these. And the question mark encounters are nice because I can make them more like organic things that might happen on the campaign. So right now, if you find a encounter, for example, that's a tent, I have to make it tent related, right? You go up and it's a guy at a tent who you can hire. But if it's a question mark, I could make it anything. If you walk up to the question mark, it could say, hey, 2 of your officers are fighting right now. One of them's threatening to resign. How are you going to resolve this issue? Or, hey, one of your regiments is about to desert. You need to pay them extra. Pay them $50 extra or else they'll leave your camp now. Or they could be positive things. It's like a risk or reward type of thing. You don't know what you're going to get. It could say, hey, we just found abandoned supplies. That's free manpower we get, or free ammunition. So these little question marks are nice. And as Liam is even saying, they could even be ambushes, right? It could be anything. But we could dot the map in little question marks in addition to having these regular encounters. And so that adds just a little bit more variety that you're seeing. Because right now, look, this big open field, there's one caravan in it. And if you go to the caravan enough, you'll probably know. You go there and look, it's civilians at a caravan. You can give them aid and that's that. But a question mark could be anything. It's a little bit riskier. And so I feel like that adds variety. So now we have content variety through the question marks, and then we have enemy variety through bosses, elites, patrols, and stalkers. And then that to me seemed like a good way to just bring a little bit more life into this map and have a little more movement going on without overscoping the game. Because the last thing I want to do is present this to a developer and he says, well, Griffin, this is going to take 3 months to do. And if you want to get this done in a month, there's not a way we can do that. So I'd love to be able to say, oh, there's patrolling allied armies and caravans and all these things are moving around and a unique trade system and economy. But of course, it's going to take way more than a month. But basically, our time frame is we have 1 month to add it. So I was thinking, within reason, what's 1 month of work that we could do to build off of what we already have? And this is kind of what I landed at. Okay, so I'll read your guys' feedback. Coming in late, Poland in August. I'm not sure what that means. It'd be cool if there were roadblocks. That's kind of what I was thinking about the patrolling armies that kind of stop you from those roadways there. They should spawn on the side of the map and actively hunt you. Yeah. I think the danger timer is a good way to make spawning stalkers without feeling unfair. Yeah, what I would do, Racer, is the stalkers would only come in at a certain amount of time. So once it hits like day 14, then they can start spawning. And then the longer you progress the campaign, the more frequent they can come. And by the way, to give them like a historically accurate term, you could call them skirmishers. Think of like roaming bands of Cossacks and Grenzers that would be harassing you. I'm just calling them stalkers because I want gamified patrollers, stalkers, elites, bosses. They're just nice gamified language. So I just want to make that clear. What was the other thing I wanted to say? I don't remember. Okay, let me just keep going. The question marks could be cool for ambushes. Yep. I wonder if there's a better way to make the real strategy on the campaigns, not simple tactics and battles. Maybe with days, the elites can unite with the boss. I did think about that, but I think that would be maybe too complex. Patrols alerting the elites to converge onto you. I think for now I'd keep the elites stagnant. And if I play tested with some players, remember I was showing the schedule, we could implement it in June. And if we play tested it and players said, hey, look, the elites were a good idea, but they're just not enough of a threat, then we would use July to bug fix and balance, and we could maybe wake up the elites if like a patrol catches you or something. But I want to save the advanced AI behaviors for when we need it. I want to start with the simplest possible solutions and then add on complex behaviors as you need it. Because I typically find in game design that you come up with all these great complex ideas, and then when you actually start, the simplest one could have actually sufficed, and then you could have built off of that. There could be events involving enemy armies. I already have that, actually. I do have that in the game currently. Animals on the map. Liam, I actually already have that too. Are the boss armies always the largest army on the map? They currently are, Finian, yes. But I can change any of that. So yes, currently. Stalkers can come from the boss's direction, move across the map. Yeah. I think the extra army types is necessary. I think it might be necessary for the game to feel dynamic. I'm thinking about that too, Fireball, that I think right now without it, it just feels a little boring. Like I'm just moving around the map and look, 2 armies just spawn at me, and it doesn't feel strategic. Whereas if I knew that there were armies encamped in certain locations, or there was a patrol moving up and down the road, and that only rarely does a stalker come at me if I'm taking too long, then it feels like this feels unfair to just get randomly pincered from nowhere. But I feel like if the stalkers were a little rarer and maybe they were slow too, so you can easily outrun them, that might be better. And that the main armies that you're dealing with are like the big encamped armies and the patrols moving across roads. So at least you feel like you have a way to deal with them. For skirmishers, it'd be cool to have some armies spawn. Maybe the elites could pick up stakes when you stick around or something. Russia could get... Racer, I can already do this, actually. I can already do this, what you're saying. I can actually define... Check this out. I can define the default army compositions. So, look at this. We go to enemy army comps. Look at this. I can define on easy what a light division would be is called a light patrol, a recruit patrol, and a recruit patrol. And then it goes to, well, what is a recruit patrol? So then you click on division types. And then for Russia, a recruit patrol includes 2 surf recruits. Or a light patrol might include hussars and pandors. But a Prussian light patrol might be Jaegers and Frey infantry. So I can basically define the types of units I want in an army composition and then define within each army how would they interpret that. You know, what is irregular cavalry to the Austrians? Well, it might be hussars. But what is irregular cavalry to the Russians? That might be Cossacks, lots of Cossacks. So I can make that kind of different for each nation. I wonder if stalkers should instead spawn around the player and move around randomly instead of always spawning right by the player and immediately locking on. Yeah, I don't know. The stalkers it might be a bit tough to figure out how I want to do those, so I'm not sure. I understand your desire to get it out. I was hoping for a more realistic campaign engine. The scouts detachment, column army production is good. It's just not how militaries of the period moved. Yeah, Michael, I completely agree. I think here's the biggest issue. This game is being made on a budget and a team size similar to Ultimate General Gettysburg. In fact, it's smaller. It's smaller than the team that worked on Gettysburg. Gettysburg is this small little game, if you've heard of it. You can see the graphics here are very small and cartoony, and it's one battle between 2 nations. There's not any regimental flags. There's no differences in uniforms. It's just one battle, right? And the Ultimate General people made this as a proof of concept, basically, in order to work on bigger games. Master of Command is my Gettysburg, but I knew you guys would be disappointed. If I said, hey, my game is called Master of Command, Leuten or Master of Command, Battle of Minden. You'd be like, Griffin, I don't care about Minden, and there's only 2 factions in it, and you fight one battle. Are you kidding me? And there's not even multiplayer. So I knew people are going to be upset with that. So I pushed myself as hard as I possibly could, and I pushed the team as hard as I could to just be able to even get a campaign mode in, to be able to get the customization in, to be able to get all the different nations in. I wasn't planning on doing any of that. Originally, it was supposed to be 2 nations that you play as, and it was supposed to be a campaign that looked like this. That was the original plan, but I just slowly kept overscoping it because I know, hey, Griffin, I'm disappointed. Hey, Griffin, I'm disappointed about that. Oh, we don't even get to play as this. And then the issue is I keep expanding it for people. And by the way, I'm not yelling or complaining to you at all. I'm just explaining. And then I still get people like in my community hub who are like, look, they'll say, oh, I can't believe you. You're not doing the Ottoman Empire. What are you kidding me? It's always the same with these kind of games. They always play the same milked nations. You should have included them for XYZ reasons. And it's like, all right, well, you know what? How come they can do this, where they can do Gettysburg with 2 nations in one battle, yet when I push our team as hard as we possibly can with the smallest possible, it's a smaller team than Gettysburg by far. There's 4 people working on this game and a budget that's way lower. Why do am I held to the higher standards there? So I don't know. That's just maybe a frustration, I suppose. What your comment said is totally fine. I agree with you. I would prefer if the campaign was more of an accurate simulation to 18th century armies. I definitely know that this is a gross simplification of that, and it is very gamey. But I'm just trying to make something that's fun first. And the most important part of this game are the battles. Let me just say that. The most important thing are the battles. So if I went into battle here and the units looked like crap, they controlled like crap, the firing mechanics looked like shit, there was no morale system, flanking didn't do anything, you could barely charge your units, there was no elevation system, there's no cover system, there were no officers, there's no chain of command. If that was the case, I would be very disappointed. Because to me, the selling point of the game is, hey, it's a battle system where you have control, you have customization, you have these big fights that get set up, and everything else that we've added is just bonus. Because I just needed to start from scratch and build this custom battle engine that can support all these soldiers and formations that you can drag and alter the units and set them in column or set them in line, and you can march them in real time and they'll move forward, and you can tell them to run, and you can tell them to walk, and you can tell them to use volley fire or tell them to hold fire. You could put them on the roads, and you can get these guys moving, and they have officers, and then we have these big maps, and then the armies are moving up here. Like that, this is where most of the work went for a game like this. And I very easily could have just marketed this in the same way and just said, Master of Command, Battle of Hohenfriedberg, and just did one battlefield. But I just figured that wasn't good enough. So anyways, yeah, that's just an explanation regarding that. Just to give you guys even more context about, I guess, where the campaign system came from and why we went this direction. Adding resources around. I do have something like that, but I know what you mean, Steven. Like, I do view the campaign system as a bit of like a survival. It's like a survival game in a way, because you really have to manage your resources and logistics. It could be cool to place some little resources around, though. That's kind of what the encounters already do. Because if you see a broken caravan, chances are there's some supplies you can steal. So we kind of already have that to an extent. As you're envisioning it now, they would nearly always move on roads and rarely move off-road. Yeah, Michael, I completely understand that. You can play the game in such a way where you stay on the roads, and the game does encourage you to do that. First steps, yeah. Does anyone feel like the camp screen's a little too bright compared to the campaign? It might be. I can easily dim the grass, actually. It might be a little too bright. Let me see. Some battle games don't even have a campaign. Yeah, I'm trying as hard as I possibly can, to be honest. And Michael, I know you're not criticizing at all. I think what you said just reminded me of a common criticism I've heard elsewhere from less polite people. So I just wanted to kind of just say that. I don't know. I wasn't yelling at you or saying anything like that. But yeah, let me look. This is the grass in the campaign, and this is the grass. I feel like those match pretty well. I think that matches. People who truly care for this game understand the idea. The fictional nation building, yeah. But yeah, I can kind of like stop there. I don't know if anybody's... Did I lose a bunch of viewers, I wonder? Oh no, there's still about 40 people here. Okay, so based on everything that I've said, do you guys feel like that direction and these ideas, this should help improve the campaign? Or is there any other thing? There's a bunch of little mini things too, little ideas that I don't know are going to make it in. Like one idea I had was having stances. So you could do forced march and you consume more food, but you move faster if you need to run away from an army. Another idea I had was that instead of making it so every other region you enter is winter, because right now it goes summer, winter, between each region you go to, maybe every region starts in the summer, because that's when armies would campaign, and if you stay in a region too long, the game punishes you by turning it into winter mid-campaign. So if you stayed campaigning too long and you got greedy and you're just trying to beat lots of armies and you don't take on the enemy headquarters in that region, it will actually turn to winter. And when it turns to winter, your logistics are much more difficult. Like you get a big malice applied to your army. And so like the artist drew this as a concept. You get like a pop-up that says winter and then everything winterizes. And I think that would maybe be cooler. So this way you have a dynamic season system. Again, this is more like I'm trying to plan, or I'm trying to picture the campaign as a survival game. If you're out in the forest, you're a survivor. Like you need to go get food, you need water, you need safety. There's a grizzly bear. How do you avoid them? How do you avoid the trails? And like that's kind of how I'm picturing this. And then how do you prepare for winter? Do you have enough food? And like I want the army to feel like a survivor, and you're ducking from patrols or ambushing enemy armies and taking on these elites, grabbing the loot that you can and dropping it off at towns and purchasing new weapons and revitalizing your army, and then preparing for this final encounter with the enemies that are there with the boss. So I'm trying to like make it feel like it's a survival game in some way, which I know sounds weird for a military strategy game, but I think I want the campaign to feel like a survival game, and I want the battles to feel like your typical Total War 18th century type of, maybe a little slower than how Total War does it though, maybe a little less cartoony, but that's kind of the ideas there. What about garrisons? Well, Joer, I was thinking garrisons would be like these elites that are like parked, that don't move. They are basically garrisons. They could appear anywhere randomly. They could be out in the mountains area. They could be behind a forest, or they could be literally on top of a town. But those elites are basically garrisons with big armies, and they don't want to leave. They're not going to move, even if you walk past. So it's up, you engage them on your terms. The patrols, meanwhile, will come after you. And so will these stalkers. They'll come after you too. But the elites and the boss will stay put. The boss will activate, though, if you wait too long. If you wait like 60 days, eventually this boss grows stronger and stronger as it rallies its own men and becomes a bigger army. And then once it's at full strength, it actually comes after you. It destroys its camp and moves after you. And it moves after you at a speed that you can't outrun. So eventually it will find and take you out. I like turning to winter on the campaign map. Yeah, I think that would be probably better. Could you invade Britain as France? You actually can, the man. Do you want to see it? I'll show you. That was another thing when I was planning the Europe map that I felt like was... We had... the Europe map originally was just Silesia, Bohemia, and Brandenburg. And I'm like, that feels too limiting. So I really opened things up and see how big the map is. But check this out. If we go to Flanders... Here, I'll keep regenerating a campaign until it tells me I can go to England. It's random generation, so you have to see if you get a mission to go to England. Let's see. Which is cool, because everybody's campaigns are going to be different. But I'll just regenerate it a few times. Damn, it does not want to generate England. There's a pretty high chance of it picking England too, because Normandy and southern England are connected. You can even get into Scotland, which is cool. There it is, raid Scotland. Look at that. So you can go into Scotland against the British as France, land a force there. And then you'll also notice the region's way more mountainous. Look at all the mountains here. I spawn max amount of mountains everywhere. And then you can see the little farms and stuff. Any ideas you make 100% will help. What we don't know is if it will compromise the game's general development or not. Because accept more, but we don't know what your limits are. Yeah, I think Vilgard, just making my proposals here are basically like making the winter region or the winter system better integrated. I'm not proposing a new season, like add fall. I'm just saying use the existing winter system that's already implemented and just integrate it a bit better. And likewise, use the existing armies that exist and just integrate them better. So hopefully, I think my suggestions are building off of the foundation that already exists, whereas I'm trying not to overscope the game and add on. Like what wouldn't be good is if I said, well, I think if we just add more content, we can dig ourselves out of this hole. You know, the campaign doesn't feel good, but if we add 100 more encounters or 3 new nations or, you know, like that is the wrong direction to go. Or let's add a new mechanic. Maybe sieges will make the game fun. Let's add a new sieging system. Those are bad directions if you think there's a flaw and you have very little time to solve it. Whereas I think my suggestions here are just about making the AI feel more immersive and utilize their behaviors in a smarter way to make the player feel like they have active and different challenges between the encamped elites, or we'll call them garrisons, and the stalkers, or we'll call them skirmishers, and then the patrolling armies, or we'll call them field armies. Again, these terms are gamified. Bosses, elites, patrols, those are gamified. And in a historically accurate term, you would call them like skirmishers, field armies, garrisons, and then maybe I don't know what you would call like the big major army. I don't know what you would call this, like a corps or like well, corps is smaller than an army. So what you probably do is actually do the patrols could be like corps that move around, like a single corps, and then this is like a full field army. Like that's how I'd probably call it, but I'm just gamifying the language. I wish the game had fall. Yeah, I know, I would love that too, but obviously budgetary reasons you can't do it. Survivor approach is historically accurate. Yeah, that is how I want to make the player feel. All these ideas add dynamic to the campaign, which is really good. Maybe a little fortress where the elites are. I think Hadada, we do that to an extent. We add like little wooden stakes and stuff where they're planted. So we actually do that already. When the Habsburg's army is starving, has a permanent chance to split off. Yeah. I think it's cleaner and presents all the key info in one spot. Play as France and use Irish troops and fight for Ireland. You could do that. Change patrols to detachments and the boss to the field army. Yeah, something like that probably works, Racer. Something like that. I'm probably going to wrap up soon now. But yeah, is there any other feedback based on what I've shown you guys today that you want to weigh in on, or any other thoughts? I know we said we liked this UI as well, which is good. But yeah. Oh, I guess last thing before I go. Thank God you banned that green guy from the Discord. Who's the green guy? What do you mean? Green guy? Do you mean Gamergoth? Or Gamerov? That guy I banned because he was making fun of my dead dog, which was very weird. And then saying that he's excited for my next dog to die to see what kind of emojis I use to, because I have an emoji of my last dog who died in my community server, and his name is Leo. And he said, I can't wait for your next dog to die like Leo did to see what emojis you use, or like something weird, like, I don't know, just. And you know what? I usually don't ban someone that quickly. I'll like put them in timeout or something. But I was like, you know what? That's so fucked up for him to say that I, no, I didn't. I'm Gamer of, and I didn't do that. You did do that. I actually kept the message. Let me see. From Gamer of, I don't know how to spell his name, but Leo or my dog, or as soon as the new Leo dies. So as soon as my new dog dies, there's a million things named after him here. Yeah, that's weird to say. Calling my new dog my new Leo, and as soon as he dies, you're waiting. Yeah, what an inappropriate and weird thing to say. And then saying that as well right after someone said they want to wear tricorn in public, and I said, yeah, maybe don't wear tricorn. And then yet another mistake for middle school days. Such a weird, that's also, first of all, that's also a weird comment. That I wouldn't ban you for. I'd just be like, all right, you're just being rude for no reason. And no, I did not wear tricorn in middle school. That's a very odd comment. You didn't know I have a dog? What did you mean by this? What did this mean then? As soon as the new Leo dies, who's Leo then? There's no one named Leo here at all. So I don't know what you're talking about. And then I do have a dog named Leo, and I did name a bunch of emojis after him. I have a bunch of dog emojis in here. Where is he? Unless they got removed. Someone may have removed them. There he is. There's Leo. Do you mean Pope Leo? Oh, that would be funny as hell if you meant that. Okay. I thought you meant my dog, dude. Yeah, hold on. Let me see here. Okay, you were misunderstood. Dude, do you understand why I thought that? Because I just got a new dog a month ago. And then you said as soon as the new Leo dies, and I was like, is he talking about my new dog? And then I named a bunch of emojis. Yeah, that's dumb. I'm sorry. I completely misunderstood I will unban you. I completely misunderstood. I thought because you just made fun of me that you immediately... The reason as well that I thought you were talking about me is because you literally made a comment saying you made a mistake from your middle school days. As soon as your new dog dies, that's what I thought you were talking to me about. So, okay, yeah, that is a complete misunderstanding. Because I just got a new dog, and my last dog is named Leo. So, and I named a bunch of emojis after him. So I thought that was different. I will unban you. Made fun of my dead dog. Yeah, that was my note for it. Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, anyways. Last thing I want to say before I go is these armies here. The differences between these armies are just the units that you start with and one little bonus that you get. If you play as the Cantonists, you can still use Freikorps troops. You can still use them. Likewise, if you play as the Cantonists, you can still use Grenadiers. The army composition just defines what you start the game with. It's just a little head start in a particular direction. I like in games, and you guys might disagree, I like when you have to unlock things. Now, I don't like when a game's overly restrictive, which is why I would make it so the first army for all 5 nations you start the game with. But these next 2 armies, I would like it if the player has to unlock them. And we've talked about this for those who've been in my stream for a while. In the past, I brought this up before. I would like to make these unlockable armies, and to unlock them, I'm trying to figure out what you have to do. And the idea that I had was that you just have to beat the game once with this army composition, and then you get the Freikorps, and you beat the game once with the Freikorps, and you can get the Old Corps, and that's as simple as that. And beating the game, you could put the difficulty all the way down. So if you got stuck, you just have to win the game once. And the game is only, you only have to conquer 3 regions to beat the game, okay? However, you can continue beyond those 3 regions. So remember how you have this region map here. Beating the game, quote unquote, is just taking 3 regions in a row. But players can continue as long as they want. You might want to conquer like 10 regions on this map. That's fine. So you only need to take 3, and then you unlock the next army. Alternatively, here's something easier, or it might be harder. I could make it achievement based. It could say something like, get 5,000 kills, and you get the Old Corps army, or win a campaign without recruiting any cavalry or artillery, or actually would be more interesting, win a campaign without ever recruiting infantry. So it's all cavalry and artillery, and then you get a composition. So maybe challenges would be more fun, but also some challenges are going to be harder than others, and then that might mean you get locked out of unlocking an army, so I don't know. But as a fallback, it could be achievement based, and then it could say as an alternative, if you don't get the achievement, you'll unlock it anyways once you reach level 10 with this country. Because in the background, we keep track of the player's level, where the more you play as Prussia, notice here I'm a level 2, just by playing as it, even if you lose, even if you win, doesn't matter, you just will rank up your country. And it just shows, it's just a neat little way to show how much experience you're gaining and how much you like to play certain countries. So it could say, hey, try to get an achievement, and if you can't get it, we'll just play as the country a lot, and eventually you'll get it anyways. So maybe it could be that. Or it could be the simpler solution, which is what I was saying before, which it could just not even be achievement-based. It could just say, beat the game once as the Cantonist, and you get the Fry Corps. Beat the game once as the Fry Corps, you get the Old Corps. Or take another step back. Here's a third option. Maybe you get the first 2 compositions unlocked at the start, and only the final one is locked. And this one has either a challenge, or it says beat the game as Prussia once, or it requires you to be a certain level. Something like that. I don't know. Between everything I just threw out there, do you guys, does anything stick between? I know I threw out a ton of options. I don't want the game to be grindy. That's not at all what I want the game to be, but I like being driven by little goals in games. I think it's fun to, especially when they're not, I'm not saying you can't play as France, right? Like you can play as France and build any army you want to. I can play as the lower Rhine forces and make a cavalry army. It's not restricting you at all. These are just fun little bonus armies that you get that just change the game in some way. So if you play as the House of the King, you get cavalry morale plus 50%, but the officers are horrible. It's just a neat little twist that it throws in the game. And some players may not even want to play with that. They don't want a negative, right? You may just want to play the default composition. Every nation's default composition does not have a negative effect. Notice this is just extra melee damage. And notice for, I don't know, Britain, it's extra accuracy. And notice for Prussia, it's free reservists. It's only the other compositions that come with a negative to just make them unique. Because I like having progression. Find an officer on the campaign map that allows you to unlock other armies. I don't think I would do that. That's a cool idea, but I don't think it's a bit too hard if you make it RNG based. So I'm not quite sure if I like that one. That's a cool idea, but I don't think it would work with the framework that we have. I do like it locked. It would get me to play every nation as a sense of progression. Yeah, I do that in games too. I like to have things to work toward. It's fun to achieve goals, especially if there's achievements attached to them. And as long as they're not grindy, if they're simple enough and just get me to play the game more and just have different ways to play it, I think that's fun. Some games have a button that allows, yeah, maybe Machiavelli, maybe there could be a cheat menu, and if you enable it and unlock the army compositions, it could lock you out of those achievements. So if you're an achievement-driven guy, you should play it the normal way. And if you don't care about achievements, you don't care about progression, maybe you could just use the cheat menu. Maybe that would be a compromise. But at the end of the day, I'm not really restricting anyone in a big way. You know what I mean? Like, the Old Corps, the only difference is that you start with 2 grenadiers. Why couldn't I play as the Cantonist levies, win a few battles, and then make 4 grenadiers? Because I actually start with 4 units. Like, it's such a minor twist to the Prussian playstyle that it's not like, oh, this content is really being overly restrictive. It's just a little twist. You like, how many other games do you have a nation and then multiple armies within that nation to lead? It's just a little thing. So I don't know. Okay, that's kind of it for me for today. If anybody has any other opinions or anything, feel free to write them before I leave or write them in the comments, and I'll keep the stream up afterwards. But thank you guys for all the feedback. There were a lot of things we went over, and I'm glad we got a few things settled. We talked about the campaign changes, and we talked about nation selection being improved as well. So I like the unlocking. Maybe unrelated, form an infantry square. We don't have squares, the man, but you can actually drag the unit in a squarish shape, and they actually get a melee buff if you do that, which is neat. So it's just a very passive little thing we added. The game doesn't seem Dark Souls hard. Yeah, and a player you could select an easy difficulty and still gain achievements. So, Will, I'll remove the timeout as well. There we go. Okay, guys, I'll see you later. Thank